Political polarization is often treated as a warning sign, something society must stamp out before it tears the country apart. But is that really the right way to see it? In a functioning democracy, disagreement isn't a flaw. It's evidence that people are thinking, questioning, and participating. A political landscape where everyone holds the same views isn't a democracy. It's a managed performance. So maybe the real question isn't how do we eliminate polarization, but what kind of polarization are we dealing with? There's a world of difference between people passionately defending their beliefs and people dehumanizing one another. Only the latter is dangerous. Silence, on the other hand, is often misread as stability. But what does silence actually communicate? Nothing clear. It can mean acceptance, but it can just as easily mean fear, resignation, or simply the feeling that speaking up isn't worth the cost. And here's the problem. Silence is politically useful to the powerful. When people don't speak, leaders can claim broad consensus even when none exists. That's why the language of tolerance becomes slippery. Sometimes it's used not to encourage mutual respect, but to pressure dissenters into quiet compliance. When tolerance is framed as submission, it stops being a civic virtue and becomes a tool for diffusing criticism. This is where slogans like unity in diversity start to lose their shine. What does unity mean if it's expected to come through ideological conformity? If people are pushed to mute their convictions in the name of harmony, what we call unity is really just obedience. It's a polite way of saying, don't rock the boat. But a society that avoids tension by suppressing disagreement isn't unified. It's holding its breath. And calling that diversity is just another way of avoiding honest engagement. Genuine unity doesn't require everyone to converge on the government's position. It requires the government to accept that disagreement is part of the deal. If leaders are genuinely worried about toxic polarization, the solution isn't to demand that everyone move toward the government's stance. That's not reducing polarization. That's managing dissent. A better approach is for governments to meet citizens where they are, not where it would be convenient for them to be. What would happen if political leaders opened real channels for dialogue? Not scripted consultations, but genuine spaces where citizens could question, criticize, and influence decisions. What if participation wasn't treated as a threat, but as a resource? People become less hostile when they feel heard. They become less defensive when their concerns are taken seriously. And they move from conflict towards understanding, not because they give up their beliefs, but because someone finally acknowledges the reasons behind those beliefs. That's why participatory politics works. It turns disagreement into conversation instead of confrontation. Maybe polarization isn't the crisis we think it is. Maybe the real crisis is the lack of listening. Let people stand by what they believe. Let them speak openly. A democracy doesn't thrive on forced harmony. It thrives on the honest friction of engaged citizens who care enough to disagree.